Once you fully understand what Bitcoin actually is, the only thing that is necessary to know above that, once you fully understand what it is the question of how do I stack more Bitcoin? How do I get more Bitcoin? And this is the very question that I was trying to answer today with Chor. We talked about going all in versus having cash reserves. We talked about his personal Bitcoin barbell strategy. It was really interesting. I never heard that ever before in any other conversation. Together with my podcast and all my podcast guests and his amazing podcast and research, we have tens of thousands of hours of Bitcoin wisdom. Enjoy. Yo, Joe, how are you doing? Everything fine on your end?
Robin, good to be back here, my friend.
Absolutely.
It's early in the morning here. It's pitch dark.
Really? Like what time is it?
6 a.m.
Oh gosh, that's really early. Yeah, it's
Well,
like
you
1
sent me
p.m.
the
in my
link,
time.
and I was like, you had a bunch of options on there, and there was options for later. But I was like, I want to get Robin fresh. I want to have a good conversation with him today. So I'm going to wake up really early today for this one. So here I am.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for coming on. How's it been? How's it been the New Year's Eve jump and coming from 2025 to 2026?
You know, it's kind of weird. I don't usually get too worried with the years and stuff like that, especially now in Bitcoin. Bitcoin really changed my time preference to be more cycles or decades versus years. But for some reason, 2025, as the clock ticked down to New Year's, I just felt such a sense of relief. I don't know why it was or what that was all about. I've never really felt that before, but I'm excited for 2026. 2025 was a good year for me personally, like professionally, I guess you'd say. I don't know how professional a guy talking about Bitcoin on YouTube is, but just with things in the background in my life, 2025 was a tougher year for me. So it's nice to kind of just get a fresh start with things. So I'm excited for 2026.
Why are you excited? I get that theme from most guests now that I'm restarting shooting in 2026. Like most people are like super excited for 2026, for Bitcoin in 2026. They see a lot of like excitement in there. I'm just like, and I'm the same. Like I literally made a video in December around the topic of like, I think 2026 will be one heck of a year in multiple things, but also in Bitcoin. Why are you feeling like that?
I just feel like we're due for a good year. You know, I had such high expectations for 2025, and everything other than the fiat price of Bitcoin was awesome. Like in terms of the Bitcoin macro lens, there was a couple just disputes along the way, but I think those will just ramp up over time as Bitcoin kind of gets more and more ingrained into different parts of society. But it just didn't make any sort of sense to me that all this is happening that I could see every day, because both you and I do shows every day on here. So our head's very much in Bitcoin. And you'd see this and you'd see that, and you're like, what? Why is the price not moving? Like we did a show yesterday with Rajat and Forrest, and from 2023, there was like 30 companies who were buying Bitcoin on the Bitcoin treasuries list. And like the bottom of it, the lowest one had 0.02 Bitcoin or something. That's what got them onto this list. And we looked at yesterday, and like the 100th one has 200 and some Bitcoin now. So it's just like there's been so much demand come into Bitcoin, and obviously everybody knows that the supply isn't going any quicker up to meet that demand. And so it just, nothing aligned with me in terms of the sentiment, everything like that. It was one of those years that just didn't make sense. So I feel like the longer that goes on, the more up or down you're going to see. And I think that's what, as a Bitcoiner, that's what I want to see, either up or down. I don't care. It's kind of boring right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think Warren Buffett said that like the stock market is a lottery machine in the short term and a weighing machine in the long run, something like that. Yeah. And I think this is like with Bitcoin, the same thing, even though like Warren Buffett is not a Bitcoiner, but I think his principles are sometimes really interesting with long-term preference, don't sell something, like that keep sticking it. Like I feel like he could be a really solid Bitcoiner from his principles. And like having that low time preference that, the short-term volatility is the price you pay for the long-term success of Bitcoin, like 100%.
Yeah, I think that when you get into Bitcoin, you're really excited, and then you go through something, whether it's a bear market or a big run up and then a crash, whatever it is, you kind of have to go through something, I think, in Bitcoin to really understand what's going on here. And people think, from my perspective anyways, I thought before that a bear market was hard to get through. But at least in a bear market, if you kind of have a good understanding of what Bitcoin is and you have the conviction over Bitcoin, that's a really exciting time, because you're getting what you want the most for a lot less fiat dollars. But last year, it was just like nothing really happened. And so I think that if you survive 2025 as a Bitcoiner, I would consider you to be a Bitcoiner now, because there's a lot of people who came in early in the year with a lot of expectations and high hopes for it. And then it just kind of slowly fizzled down for the rest of the year. And there's nothing more painful than a slow chop downwards if you're somebody who, especially with those expectations. So I think that it created a lot more Bitcoiners, because I always say, like, there's a difference between somebody who has price exposure to Bitcoin and even holds Bitcoin in a wallet, and somebody who's a Bitcoiner, somebody who's been through it, somebody who understands what's going on here, somebody who won't flinch when it's going up or down. That's a Bitcoiner to me. And I think that 2025 created a lot of new Bitcoiners.
I love that. Yeah, it's like the makings of the new Bitcoiners. And I think it's so crazy, because if you think about 2025, what the year was actually all about was adoption and just not price action. And if you are a real Bitcoiner, you look at 2025 and you're like, this is the best possible year. If you just look from a fundamental basis, you have an asset, like just like not even looking at Bitcoin, in any asset, you have an asset that fundamentally gets stronger, gets adopted, things are happening, like the fundamental basis, everything that you can look at and view the asset gets stronger in 1 year. And at the same time, price goes down. This is like, I want to buy that, where it gets fundamentally stronger and the price goes down. This is amazing. It's actually, I had that when I started investing with like 18, 19 years old, when I started investing in Tesla. Back in the day, I was like all in Tesla actually. And the first year I made minus 50%, something like that, like first 1.5 years. It just went down like crazy. It was very hard because it was the starting to my investing journey. And I just invested something and it was going down like 30, 40, 50%. And I was so baffled, because it was like, am I so bad in investing? Like Tesla, like every quarter got better. All the numbers got better. They were really close to profitability. Like they were still losing money at that point, but they getting closer and closer to profitability. I can see all the positive factors. And I was like, the price just tanks. And I was like, I will just load up on it. I don't care. I'm like 18 years old. If I lose all my money, I'm restarting with 19, 20 years old. I don't care about that.
Exactly.
Now. And then Tesla from the low shot up 11x over the next like couple of years where I was into Tesla. And I was like, this was my lesson. This was literally the lesson. And so when I got into Bitcoin, I was used to that volatility, and it was super easy for me. It was like, 2021, like we go from 70K to like 16K. I'm like, that's normal. Like that. I love that. And so I think someone has to get trained in that volatility, that it actually pays off, because in the short run, the market, the asset, whatever you're holding, I think here all Bitcoin, can go really bad, and you can still be right. So being in a position that you don't have to sell, being in a position of strength is probably a good thing, and having a long time horizon. Did you have something like that before Bitcoin actually, or like it was Bitcoin your thing that made you realize what volatility actually means?
Yeah, I was a dummy before Bitcoin. Like I worked a job, like I was an accountant for 10 years, and like I would throw I think it was 4% they matched into this pension fund, and I would get my statements at the end of the year, and then there'd be like some global equity fund, some Canadian equity fund, US equity. I'm like, I don't know what any of this stuff is. It went up a little bit. Good. Like that was kind of my I wasn't an investor. I got into things early. I was always able to see things kind of before the average. I'm never like the very first person, but I've always been kind of like able to recognize things before they come to life. And so I got into, I think I was about the same age, maybe 18 or 19. And I told my dad, I don't even think I had an investment account at this time. I told him to buy some Apple stocks because I got an iPhone. I could, I was one of the first people in my town to get an iPhone. And I was like, this thing's probably going to catch on. Let's get some Apple stocks. So we did. And that was kind of the exposure to it. But Apple just kind of went like this throughout that whole time. Like it just went up. There was no real volatility or anything like that. So I think before something like Tesla and Nvidia and Bitcoin now, I don't know if we've ever had anything that's just got such wild swings with it, but it's fun. If you know what you're doing and you're here for the long term and you know how to kind of manage those highs and lows, it's opportunity. And Saylor's been saying that for a very long time now. Volatility is opportunity, and it absolutely is. And so I think once you get to the point in Bitcoin where you have the conviction, you have a good security setup for protecting your private keys, then you can start doing some things with it. Like you can be a little bit more intelligent with how you're buying it. 2025 taught me that I should probably have a little bit of cash on the sidelines. I was pretty, I don't know if it would be over leveraged because I don't like taking on debt and that kind of stuff. It's just, I don't want any stress in my life, right? So I know that there's ways you can get more Bitcoin quicker, but to me, there are no shortcuts in Bitcoin. The way to get more Bitcoin is become more valuable and add more value to the world and store that in Bitcoin. So that was kind of the extent of it for me. I was forced to sell some of my Bitcoin in 2025 when I didn't want to at prices that I didn't want to. And so for now, going forward, I've kind of changed my strategy to be a little bit less Bitcoin, some cash on the side. And it just feels better to me that way. That's kind of my goal in life, is to be as less stressed in bad ways as possible, but stressed in good ways for like trying to grow and become more valuable and grow my skill sets. But with things that are out of my control, I don't want any sort of stress with that. So that's why I don't take on debt to buy Bitcoin. I have some cash now on the sidelines, but these are just kind of things that you learn going through these. If I hadn't gone through 2025, I wouldn't know to keep like a portion of my stack in cash actually. And I know Bitcoiners hate hearing that, but it's nice when you don't have to sell your Bitcoin when the price is going down to pay for things that come up in life, because life's very unexpected.
It means less Bitcoin. It's so fun because literally this morning, you won't believe this. Literally this morning, I was kind of looking at my thing where I'm currently 97% into Bitcoin and 2% or maybe 1% into strategy and have like 1 or 2% cash. Like that, like I'm super heavily invested, which I'm okay with because I use Bitcoin also as money. But today in the morning, I was like, it's probably not a good idea. The older you get, the more responsibility you have. The thing gets like more complicated. And if you're 18 years old, live with your parents, like you don't need to have an emergency fund. Like who cares? Like your emergency fund is your parents. If your parents are broke, maybe you should build one.
Yeah.
like in most cases, like you don't care. Like I don't. Like 18 years old, I really didn't care about like emergency funds. I was like, oh, Tesla, cool. I want to make money. But now I'm 27 years old. Like I'm still super young. But things change. And I'm like, what if I just either slowly integrate more and more cash or even sell some Bitcoin to get the cash to build out like maybe 90% Bitcoin allocation or 85%. So that's why I'm really curious, because I literally thought about it today and like tried to come up with a framework to think about that in a personal finance standpoint. Like, what does less Bitcoin mean for you? Are you still like 95% in there, or like what is cash even meaning for you?
Well, that's why I said like I was probably 100% or higher. Again, I haven't gone through the process of putting my Bitcoin up for collateral to buy more Bitcoin, but I've definitely used like lines of credits and things like that to buy Bitcoin when I thought it was a good, appropriate time to. But so yeah, like every time that I would get paid, I would just automatically convert it to Bitcoin, which is great when the price is going up and you get to sell some of it or whatever it is and you're actually getting ahead. But when it's going the other way and your purchasing power is going down and you're like, I don't want to have to sell my Bitcoin at $80,000 here to pay for this expense. So it was kind of a mixture of like Rajat. Rajat's been talking about Bitcoin and cash strategy for a while. And then there was Saylor also adding cash to their reserves for strategy. And then I was reading a book and they talked about a barbell strategy. And kind of the idea with the barbell strategy was like you have two sides of the barbell. One's kind of like your safe, your stable part of it, like kind of for your short-term obligations, which in this case would be a cash. And then the other side of the barbell was like a moonshot. And this is kind of a strategy that investors from the traditional world use. So to me, the moonshot was the right side of the barbell, which is Bitcoin and strategy too. I would put both Bitcoin and strategy on kind of that right side of the barbell. And it's not a moonshot in the sense that one day it's just going to go from 1 to 1,000. It's like my long-term moonshot. So that's kind of what I'm holding on the one side of the barbell. And then I've started to increase the cash size here. And kind of going to your point there, I don't plan to sell any of my Bitcoin. That's not really my idea. It's just in 2026 now, instead of just taking any money that I make and putting it all into Bitcoin, now maybe I put 50% into cash, 50% into Bitcoin, and just kind of build it up over time instead of having to part with some of my Bitcoin. Be different if it shot up in the next couple months to $200,000. Then I might skim some off Bitcoin and just put that into a cash reserve. But kind of where we are right now, I think it just makes more sense for me to just slowly accumulate a bit of a cash reserve.
I'm debating that a lot because I think the prices here are super low. But at the same time, I don't want to try to time the market. And like if you think about like, okay, I want to make personal finance decisions and want to be responsible with the money I have, with cash reserves, especially because I'm self-employed, I have freelancers, like I have all that going on. I also, my girlfriend is working, and from my income I can easily support her, but I really want to be always in a position to support her in case something goes wrong, especially because she's not an Austrian citizen. So if she doesn't find work and doesn't have financial security, she literally is gone from Austria. So there's always that in mind also, that I really want to be there for her in case something goes wrong. And so like just thinking about like the different setups you have in life, how much does the price really matter, especially if you like bought the last 5 years already? Like,
right.
There are some Bitcoin that you bought at maybe 10K or like maybe 20K, and you're like, okay, skimming some off at like 90K probably makes sense. If you're now like different and you came into the market and you literally came into Bitcoin when it was 110 or 120K, yeah, now selling some to build an emergency fund, that seems like a very bad idea. Or like at least emotionally, it will be very hard for you, I guess.
Yeah, for sure it would be. And I think just for me, like if we're thinking about this cash reserve as kind of like an emergency fund, I just don't see any need to like really rush into that emergency unless there's an actual emergency. And that's why I don't like the idea of like selling some Bitcoin at this exchange rate to have cash. It's like if an emergency came up, then I would just sell some of my Bitcoin at that time to pay for it. So that's kind of that's the idea there, is I just want to slowly over time start building up a bit of a cash reserve. Just because, again, kind of my goal is just to sleep better at night with all aspects of life, with work, with my personal life, with everything. That's the goal. And so if I'm worried about whether or not I can pay for this without having to sell my Bitcoin at prices that I don't want to sell it at, that's stressful to me. And that's, it's not something I want. So I would rather just kind of get ahead of it. And again, Bitcoiners probably hate hearing that. It's like, what, Jor, why would you ever hold cash? It's like a melting ice cube. I know that. but it's just for like short-term obligations. And then you don't have to worry about what the price is. It just takes a lot of pressure off. I think that's the main thing, is like, you're not constantly hoping the price goes up just so you can sell at a higher price. It's just like, okay, have some cash, then Bitcoin can just do what it does. And then you just buy accordingly.
Do you have a framework to think about how much cash?
Yeah, I do. And I think it really depends on the person, right? And it's same as anything. It all depends on somebody's age. It depends on how much income they're making, and it depends on their lifestyle. Those three things kind of makes each situation very unique. And so kind of the way I was thinking through this is like, if you're somebody who has, let's just say you're satisfied with your Bitcoin stack right now, then I would say it's probably better to start allocating maybe 50% of your paychecks or your income coming in into cash. But if you're somebody who just got into Bitcoin in like 2024, 2025, and you're still trying to grow your stack, probably not the best idea. I would still be risking it at that point and saying like, I'm still going 90% Bitcoin, 95% Bitcoin. Again, not for everybody, but if you are somebody who understands, has a conviction over Bitcoin, and you're here for the long term, I think that I would be in more of a rush to get it. So it really depends, I would say, how much Bitcoin you have right now. And it's all different situation by situation. But the question I guess to ask is, are you satisfied with it? Are you satisfied with what you have right now? Or do you feel like you want more, like a lot more, and you really want to grow your stack? And if that's the case, then it's probably best to just risk it for a while and just put more into Bitcoin. But if you're satisfied with your stack, or somewhat satisfied, then you can kind of start going 50% cash, 50% Bitcoin, something like that.
I'm curious what your take on this is. I view money as time. And so if I think about my money, I always do that, and I love to do this exercise. I go ahead and sit down with my girlfriend and say like, hey, those are our combined monthly expenses. And those are our combined total liquid net worth. How many months could we live from all the assets we own against the expenses that we need? Like, what is the number? And just like start with just like take the assets, divide it by the monthly expenses. Don't do anything fancy now with inflation or something like that.
Right.
Just like doing that, because my thing is like my assets hopefully will outgrow inflation, and so it will get even better if we just like take that. And this is how I also try to look at cash now, where I'm like, if I'm 18 years old, I need 0 months of cash. Like, I have parents, they will provide food, shelter, and maybe some Netflix. Like, I don't, like, if I have that, like, I'm fine. Maybe not Netflix. You don't need that. You just need YouTube, I guess. YouTube and it's free. YouTube Premium you need. Oh gosh. YouTube Premium is for anyone that asks me in the comments to put less ads. I don't put the ads in my videos. YouTube does. And the way to get rid of them, YouTube Premium or some ad blocker, I don't control how many ads there are in my videos. Like, I just take the default of YouTube. I don't start to like edit like where is the ads in my videos. Just like as a side note, like if you're broke, get an ad blocker. If you can afford it, get YouTube Premium. Might be a controversial take, but this annoys me. Where was I? Yeah, and then I cash with you like 18 years old, you need 0. Now with like between 20 and 30, when you start to be getting independent, where I'm right now, maybe 3 to 6 months might be a good position to have. And then 3 to 6 months with your partner, I would say, like, especially if you're in a committed relationship, then kids come into play. Then you also have to calculate for the kids because they don't produce income. Like if they're 2 years old, I don't have kids, but like I think they don't produce income. And so I think the longer you go, the more cash reserves you want to have. So if you're now like 45 years old, you have 3 kids and maybe you are a small entrepreneur who has like 2 employees, you probably want to have cash reserves in your business, and you want to have like a good cash reserve also in your personal life, maybe in like a year, maybe if you're good earning and if you have some assets, maybe in like 1.5 years. And so that's how I think of cash, not as a percentage of net worth, not as like total numbers, just of like time to live. The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relai to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relai, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called Microseed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With Microseed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because Microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.
Yeah, how long you can live off it, for sure. That makes a lot of sense to me, and I think that's kind of goes along with everything, right? Like even with Bitcoin stuff, it's like if I was 18 years old, I wouldn't have anything else other than Bitcoin, like zero. Whereas if I'm 65, 70, 75, I'm probably maybe like 50% max into Bitcoin, and the rest is in some short term that I can pull from very easily. You want to be very liquid with it, right? And so we've talked about this in a couple of videos now, and people are like, well, does stretch work in place of cash because you're earning what, 10 or 11% on that? And it's like, well, kind of, but that kind of defeats the purpose of it, right? Because even stretch, it goes up and down maybe 10, 15%. And you don't really want that. You want something that's just not going to move at all. As much as I hate holding fiat dollars, what you want here is you want full stability, especially if you're that much allocated to Bitcoin, which is a very wild ride. You want some sort of stability in your life. And that's why I think cash makes a lot of sense there. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I would say on that, is just like cash in hand. Physical cash is great. Cash in a bank, if you still have a bank, I'm trying my best to kind of get away from that system, but I got a couple toes in there just because of mortgages, other things going on. I'm still kind of in the fiat world in that sense. So I still do have a bank account. Probably in 5 years, I won't. That's kind of my outlook for the future. I just want to kind of get out of that system fully, but it's not today.
How would you think about stretch? Because of course it has risks, like it has all the risks that Bitcoin has. It has all the risk that strategy has. It has all the additional risks of will they be able to pay the dividends and all of that. And yes, they have not the cash reserve. So like, I don't want to let anyone in the belief that stretch is risk-free 10% rate and that's amazing. It 100% definitely comes with a lot of risks and like 200 more risk factors that I haven't even mentioned. But I personally have high conviction in Bitcoin, very high conviction in Bitcoin. I have a little less, but still high conviction actually in strategy and Michael Saylor and execution that he will, like he's not, it would be very different if he's a new company, but he's around for like the one or the other decade in public markets. And he has the first move advantage and like many other small things. Is Stretch maybe like a part of a portfolio where you have some emergency funds that is in local fiat currency? And then there is Stretch also as like the extended cash balance, kind of where you earn a higher yield on, but it's more liquid. Like you don't, like you can quickly get it out and in. Like it's like, at least in, I don't know how it is with you in Canada, but like in Austria, you can just literally, if I don't have Stretch, by the way, full disclosure, but if I would to buy it, I could literally sell it now and have it in my bank account within like probably an hour, like maybe even less than
Really?
that.
Okay.
Same with Bitcoin. It's super easy and fun if they are opening, like if the opening hours like align.
Right.
You have to like know the opening hours. And so like, it's not exactly as cash, but like I can get it within less than a day in cash. So, and it's like my bank pays me, I think 3% or 2% on cash, which is not good, but like also not bad. But like definitely not 10%. So that's what I'm like also thinking right now of like, what could be Stretches? Is that the right word? Stretches. The role of Stretch in a portfolio of a high convicted Bitcoiner.
I honestly don't think that it makes sense for somebody who's our age. Just based on this strategy here of like a barbell strategy, I would say that Stretch would make sense in the terms of like if we're talking short-term obligations being cash and kind of the long-term moonshot being Bitcoin and strategy. Stretch might kind of fit into the medium place there, but that's kind of the point of the barbell strategy. There's nothing in the medium. It's just you have something short-term and you have something that you have conviction in for the long-term that you believe is going to go up over time and outperform everything else. So to me, I think that it's worth having some cash and then Bitcoin, because I don't really want something sitting in a market for 1-2 years as kind of my medium emergency fund. I would rather just have that in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin has a chance one day it could go from 100 to 200 and then 300. And I'm kind of on the sidelines for that. So that's kind of the strategy there, is you just have what you need in the short term. And then everything else is kind of riding on your rocket. But again, I would say this, Robin, which is if you're somebody who's like, again, 60, 70, 80, maybe it makes a lot more sense to have money in Stretch and then less Bitcoin. But kind of where I am right now, I would rather just have that in Bitcoin, because I do not want to miss out on those days.
That's super interesting. Especially also, I don't know how it is with you, but with my brokerage on strategy there that I use in Austria, they give you 50% loan to value ratio that you can access at any time you want. It's like a basic
line of
feature.
credit.
Yeah, line of credit that everyone gets. Like if you have 100,000 in strategy, you get a 50,000. Like usually a little bit less than that. Usually they give you like maybe 30 or 40,000. I don't have that much, but like or usually if they give you 50%, they actually give you like 40%, just to like be safe. It also depends on how volatile and what stocks. Like there's like a calculation that goes on in the background, but they give you credit. So like if you make the example of hey, I'm a high convicted Bitcoiner, I have a long time horizon, it probably doesn't make sense to put something like Stretch in the portfolio, because you need a cash reserve that actually is cash, and Stretch does not have the same risk factors than cash has. And so the other way around, Stretch has more risk factors than the actual cash has. And then for your upside, you can just have it in Bitcoin, or in strategy. And in strategy, for example, you can easily take out something against that if you have some. This is the main also advantage of strategy versus Bitcoin. In Bitcoin, there's just not good providers yet for borrowing against it.
Agreed.
With stocks, it's so common and so now nice. Also, I think my broker offered 6% interest rates on it, and you can pay it back anytime. You can just like lend it anytime. Like you don't have to ask. Like you can get it instant line of credit. There's nothing comparable with Bitcoin that has like 6% interest rates. There's comparable things for like 12%, but I'm not paying 12%. For me, it has to be under 7, ideally under 5. But like, yeah, that's like what I'm thinking about. Like, why not just like use strategy? And if you really need the cash, you can just take it from the line of credit for short term, because like it's anyway short term. If it's a long term problem, it's a whole different story then.
Yeah, 100%. That strategy makes so much sense to me, and that's kind of what I envision the future is. I'll probably have less cash at that time, and I will have something, whether it's my Bitcoin as collateral or my strategy shares as collateral, and kind of have that as a line of credit there. But again, like you said, we're just not there yet. Like I'm not paying 12% for letting to hold my Bitcoin so I can get some cash. Like it's almost a credit card. Like it's too much, especially considering what Bitcoin is. And, you know, it's to me, Bitcoin, and for somebody who understands Bitcoin, like the company itself, I feel like the rates should be much lower than they are. And I don't know why they're that high. I think the Bitcoin is the least risky asset that you can hold right now, especially if you start out with a 50% LTV. And I think if it gets to 80, then you get margin called. So there's a 0% chance that Ledin loses in that. I'm using Ledin as an example because they're the best one, I believe, right now that's out there, and they're 12%. So it's like Ledin sells my Bitcoin at 80% of my value to it. They still don't lose, but they're still 12%. So that just doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm like, as much as I want to go and use that, we're just not there yet. Like Bitcoin to me should have a lower interest rate than anything else, but it's tough because for somebody who's providing that service to people, it's like, well, why would I hold all this cash? Because if you think about it from Ledin's perspective, they obviously have a huge pool of cash that they can tap into to give their customers. And so all that money that they're holding there in cash or from a third party, I don't know exactly how that works, but that's an opportunity cost to them. And that's kind of where in the future, I'm like, why would anybody give loans off of Bitcoin when they can just hold Bitcoin themselves for a better return than somebody who's paying them a 3, 4, 5% interest rate? So it's interesting to me. I really don't know where this whole thing's going to go. I used to be more sure of it, I thought, but it's just like when you play out the incentives and kind of long-term vision here, I don't know. And so that's just where I am right now. I think it's too early. It's not risky to me for it to send some Bitcoin to Ledin and get some money back. That's not really risky to me. I'm pretty confident that they're a good, solid company. They made it through the last bear market. It's just that 12%, it might as well be a credit card. It's too high. It eats at you.
And it's crazy for me because Saylor put it once up, and I love that chart where it was the loan duration and interest rate of the loan. And he explained the different categories. So if you are a loan duration of under 1 year and over like 15%, you are loan shark. Like there's like horrible rates for that you're getting. And I think he actually said financial genius was the other part of it, where you get under 7. Was it under 5 or under 7? Something like that. I think under 7% was actually his thing. And over 8 years. So like long duration loans that are like multiple Bitcoin cycles, like 2, 3 Bitcoin cycles, and low interest rates. Then you get in this situation where you're like, oh, wow, yeah, like that could be really, really interesting. Especially if you're a high convicted Bitcoiner, because like you don't pay a lot for servicing the debt,
Right.
Make sure you can actually service it. Like even in a worst case situation, you never want to get liquidated. I literally just made a post about that today. Someone on Reddit shared his story, how he got liquidated. And I was like, yeah, that's a story that like a lot of people unfortunately share.
Yeah.
So make sure you never get liquidated, even in a 90% drawback of Bitcoin, because I don't think it's likely, but it could happen.
Of course.
And so like if you have that, like it could be very, very valuable. I still don't want to do it. Like I'm still against debt in general. But like it's a tool that you have in at your how do you say disposal, yeah. And you should use it if you need it, or if you want it, or if you think it's like something valuable to. I choose not to do it.
Yeah, I think that speech you're talking about from Seyr was actually at Vegas. He was talking about that, I believe, anyways. But I remember the one you're talking about, because he was talking about essentially how he took on debt right at the right time when interest rates were really low. So he was kind of in a roundabout way calling himself a financial genius, which I thought was pretty funny.
It was in Prague.
Was it in Prague? Okay.
But I remember that in Vegas also, because I've been there. I try to find it, but like
I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah. It was really it was fun.
So that's kind of what, again, Bitcoin I think is a lot of things to a lot of different people, and it's very misunderstood. And that's why I think it's going to be still incredibly volatile for the years ahead, just because of the fact that hardly anybody on this planet actually understands what this asset is at a deep level. Kind of the test that I use for people of whether or not they understand Bitcoin is the difficulty adjustment. If they can explain the difficulty adjustment, one, but more importantly, like why that gives Bitcoin so much value. And so I just feel like that there's such a small percentage of people. I don't know what it would be. Jerry actually did a calculation on his show last night. He thought it'd be less than 0.001% of the population, I believe. And that's kind of what I would assume too. It might be way less than that. So it's like, how do you properly value this asset? So anyways, I see it as very good collateral. I think it's impossible to even compare to Bitcoin in terms of like holding it as a collateral, especially if you are here for the long term. And from both the lender's perspective, like the bank, it's crystal clear to me that all banks are going to want Bitcoin as collateral, not just to have on their reserves, but because of the properties that Bitcoin has with it. And so to me, it's been called pristine collateral. And I think that that's a major understatement for what Bitcoin is. So that's kind of how I'm seeing it in the future. And that's kind of how I'm thinking about it at some point, is I do have some Bitcoin set aside, some UTXO set aside that I will lend against in the future. And this is something that people should actually start thinking about right now, even if they're not in a position where they need it or they will short term. But you should start kind of setting up your Bitcoin fund as, you know, your reserve or your stack to align with some of the things that you want to do in the future. And you should start thinking about the size of the UTXOs. Who knows you have it in terms of like where you bought it from, which exchange. Did you buy them from a friend, or is it KYC Bitcoin? But I just think that that's such an important thing for people to be doing right now, is developing some sort of strategy and looking at what you have right now, looking at your Bitcoin as your UTXOs, and like, what are you going to do with that in the future? Are you going to lend against this UTXO? Do you want the bank to know that you have this much Bitcoin? At what point, what the price has to be for you to do that? There's so many things that go into this other than just like the left side of the bell curve, just buying Bitcoin every chance you get. There's a lot of people out there and they just love the conviction videos and the hype videos and stuff like that. But there's so much stuff here behind the hood or underneath the hood that people need to be thinking about right now that they're just simply not, which is, you know, why we're doing this, I think, is to try to help people with that. But between lost keys and privacy concerns and things that people, they don't even know that they're doing wrong right now, will have very negative future implications for them at some point, which I'm trying my best to prevent that. But I'm only one guy with a small channel. So lots there.
I completely messed up my StreamYard. Sorry,
Oh,
super
did you?
sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, like I don't know like what happened.
I'm still here.
Yeah, like you because I wanted to share something and here it is. Perfect. Sorry for the short detour. I wanted to show you this now. I don't know if you have seen this slide from Zeta. I just want to make sure we're talking about the same thing. This one right here. Yeah. And this is what I was like, this is what most people don't get. Like he is even generous with like 10%. If you have 10% at 10 years, I wouldn't call you financial genius.
Agreed.
But yeah, like at least it's at least it's 10 years. So you will probably be fine if you can service the debt and if you buy Bitcoin with that, because I think over 10 years, Bitcoin will do a lot more than that. I would honestly put it at least like 7% and go under that. And yeah, 10 years is great. Like the duration of like very long runs. I love that he is like financial genius, gambler, loan shark victim. And I don't know what is an endurance.
Indentured servant.
What is even that? I don't even understand that word.
I think that's a politically correct way of saying slave.
That's crazy.
I think that's what they actually used to be called. Like I'm not a historian here, so don't come at me, the actually crowd in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's what they used to call people who signed like a 7-year contract to work for somebody. I don't know how it ties in with slavery there, but that's what it was, is indentured servant. So you're basically a slave.
The actually crowd. I love that word. I've never heard that.
Oh man, I made a video a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it or not, but I was talking about how much you need to, or why 0.1 of a Bitcoin isn't enough for people to retire off of, something like that. I forget what the video was, but I said 0.01 and 0.1. I kind of mixed them up a couple times, and there was like 40 people in my comments section saying, "Jory, you're an idiot. You don't even know how much 10 million sats is." So then the next video I did a follow up, and I had that meme of the actually guy there, and I was like, this is a literal shot of the people in the comment section. It drives me nuts, the people in the comments, but that's a whole nother conversation. The actuallys.
Is there?
You got that meme?
Oh, here we go.
Yep, that first one there.
Actually.
This is what you look like when you're in the comment section trying to correct somebody. It's like, yeah, is it easy to mix up 0.1 and 0.01 when you're doing a video? Yes, without a script, of course. So there was just, it bothered me that people think that they're smart because they know what 0.01 is, and they thought that I don't. It's like, that's them. People
want to be smart.
Yeah. People want to make you look silly. I kind of feel bad for those people, but at the same time, you would know this better than anybody, but for the amount of people in the comment section, the actuallys like that, there's 2, 3, 4x people who are just very supportive. And that's one thing that I've noticed in Bitcoin through my time here, through my short time in Bitcoin, is just the sense of community that I haven't really seen or felt anywhere else before. It's just like, and Saylor nailed this too on the topic of Saylor. He says, like, we're all on team Bitcoin. And I think that that's such an important message for people out there, is like, whether it's Robin or myself or whoever you listen to, most people watch, they might click the like button, they might, but usually they just move on with their day. And it's like, yeah, you got something, but I didn't get anything from you in return. It's not that I'm looking for likes, but just some sort of feedback. Like, do you like what I'm talking about here? Anything like that. And so I just think it's so important for people to support Bitcoiners. People kind of have to do an audit of themselves. They're like, if you think about Bitcoin like a sports team, there's what can I use? What sport would people relate to? I was going to say hockey, but I don't know how many people out there know hockey. But there's like the scorers, the snipers, the support staff, the defense, the owners. You got to kind of look and see what part of the team you are. Maybe you don't have a YouTube channel or a podcast, but you still got to play a part in this. You do. And it's like, whether it is financially support, like if you're joining a community or you're just even leaving a comment and saying, great video today. Like I enjoyed this one, because that's what people don't get is like, before I go to watch a video on YouTube, I always look at the comments, because like you said, time is money. Do I want to invest an hour into watching this? So I check the comment section first. And I just think that people out there are so used to this fiat world where it's like dog eat dog. You know, you have to beat somebody else or make somebody else look stupid to get ahead. Whereas Bitcoin, that's not the case. Like everybody wants this thing to succeed. Even people who don't have Bitcoin yet, they should want this thing to succeed, because this is the only thing that frees us from the system that we've been enslaved for the last, I don't know, 100 years, 1,000 years. So I don't think people should take that lightly. You should figure out what role you have on the team here and play that role. So that's just kind of an aside here for people to think, I don't want to shit on too many people in the comments. There's a lot of people who support out there, but you just kind of got to see, like, what role am I playing here, and am I doing a good job of that?
There's actually, I hope I probably will never say actually again. I think, gosh, it's really hard to not say actually. It's crazy. Can I form a sentence without actually now? Actually, I can't.
I think it's the context too. Like I say it all the time too. It's just, I'm not trying to say something to make somebody else look stupid. Like even in the context that you're saying it right now, you're not trying to like give me a gotcha moment or something like that. You're just saying your perspective, right? So there's a difference there. Even though it's the same word, it's different context. So I'll allow some.
Yeah, the most important thing for your Bitcoin journey is not buying Bitcoin, but it's how to keep them. And yes, you have maybe the right tools, but how do you actually go ahead and stick it all together so it's the most secure for you personally? Self-custody is a deeply personalized journey, and the Bitcoin way is helping you exactly finding that correct setup for you personally. They are also helping you with securing your own cybersecurity. And if you want to go one step above all that, you can even get a consultation for a Plan B residency. Go to thebitcoinway.com/Robin and you will get a 30-minute free consultation. I finally and officially mine Bitcoin. This is not just something to stack more Satoshis, but it's most importantly also to support the network. Individual miners are the ones that keep the Bitcoin network decentralized. And by the way, you get KYC free Bitcoin. That's why I use Simple Mining. I get an actual proper Bitcoin miner. They set it up for me. They repair it if it breaks down. And most importantly, they let me choose the pool and even connect my own full node. I'm completely sovereign and I'm completely in control, and I can sign up with Ocean, no account needed. I just give them a Bitcoin address and then there's mining going on. No KYC, nothing. So if you're ready to mine Bitcoin, go to simplemining.io, tell them you come from Robin, and let's mine Bitcoin together. It's almost like a filler word.
It is.
Like it's almost like yep. the like that you always, or like the or like the things that you use in there.
You don't even think about saying it. It just kind of rolls out.
Exactly. Yeah. Actually. It actually can also be like in confirmation of like you saying something. Now I'm like, actually.
Exactly.
Like it doesn't even interesting, but I completely forgot what I wanted to say.
We were talking about the comments and the team Bitcoin.
Oh yeah, I was kind of trying to break down because like there are the bots. Like I just leave them beside. Yeah. There's a lot of bots in YouTube, but the most people in the comment sections are really positive. The overwhelming majority is so nice and so kind, and there's like just like a few that like either don't like Bitcoin, don't like my style, don't like something I said, don't understand me. I got that feedback like, oh, like I don't understand you, like your accent is really bad. I'm like, yeah, okay, find another one. Like there's a lot of podcasts out there. And so this is something I'm like, Yeah, like, there's just like bad people in there, like good people in there. It's interesting to think about the different roles of someone, because I've been so nicely welcomed by the Bitcoin community. I haven't been in Bitcoin 3 years ago completely. I mean, I have been financially, but like not in the community. And now I'm like a part of it, and I really feel as a part of it. Like I feel at home when I go to a Bitcoin conference. I feel at home when the comment section of my YouTube videos. I feel at home when I go to Bitcoin Twitter. And this is because the people really were super nice to me. If you can ignore the like 2% that scream
Yeah.
at you negatively, if you can ignore that and focus on the 98% that is freaking awesome to you, you can actually enjoy the whole part of being in the community, in the Bitcoin family, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great point, and I completely agree with that. It's just I think that there's people out there who don't. I don't want to get too far into it. Let's I don't know, because you and I both, we put out a lot of content. There's always going to be people in there. It's just, to me, I think that people underestimate the power of what they can actually do. As somebody who's watching shows, I just want people to know that you are making a difference. And sometimes, like, we get financially supported. We have people in the live chat, but there's certain comments that people leave, and I don't know if it's just like the day they felt like leaving a comment on my channel, but that's worth gold to me. Like when somebody says, "Great job, I love what you're doing here," that's worth gold to me. And I just think that people really underestimate how powerful words are in that sense. And it is there's people doing different things in Bitcoin, but it is we're all together in this thing. And I think that we've never had anything like Bitcoin before where everybody actually can win. And it's really amazing to me how much can be accomplished, and how powerful it is when everybody's kind of in harmony and everybody's moving in the same direction and everybody has the same incentives. And that's why I'm so incredibly bullish on Bitcoin, like long term, even though it's frustrating, because for me, I'm like, I do a live stream and there's 50, 60, whatever it is, 100 people in there, which is like, yeah, it's good. If I was speaking at an event and there was 100 people in the audience, I'd be pumped. But at the same time, I'm like, why is there not 10,000 people here? Bitcoin is the most interesting, the most revolutionary, the most everything, any verb you want or adjective you want to throw in there, ever in human history. But to me, that's the opportunity here, because there's a small percentage of people who actually see that, and they're the ones who are buying this scarce, precious resource right now that everybody else is going to figure out eventually, or not. Some people will never know what Bitcoin is, and they will never need to know what Bitcoin is. But it's just still, to me, so crazy that we have this thing right in front of us, and most people just simply do not give a shit. And it's not like their life's good either. That's the other part of it, is like, if everything was great out there and we didn't really need Bitcoin, but it's like things have never been worse for people. Like people are so up to date. I just don't know how society's still functioning even. And I don't know if it's just like the mainstream, the governments, they're just putting on this facade, but it's like, I just don't understand how the average person's getting by right now. And not only that, but not taking action to like try to find a solution right now. That's what drives me nuts.
What I think is, what I hear a lot in mainstream media, I mean, I'm biased towards Europe. I don't know if it's the same in Canada or in America, but in Europe, there's a lot of this talk 2026 will be better. 2026 will be less unemployment, will be better for the economy. We will grow again. Governments will have more money. We will have more things for that and this and that. And I'm looking at that and I'm like, I'm not sure about that.
How?
Like, I'm not sure if this actually is the case. And I think they just like promise something to try to get people to positive thinking again and just keep that thing going.
It's the carrot. They're dangling the carrot out there in front of people, and they're just consistently chasing this. It's going to get better eventually here. So nothing changed. Like we're even further into debt this year. There's more homeless people, there's more drug addictions, there's more everything, but it's going to get better because we voted this new person into power. It's just, I don't know. You just kind of get tired of it. And that's where I'm at right now. I've just completely withdrawn from that whole system. And that was actually one of the biggest things that I learned from Jeff Booth, is just that energy itself isn't created or destroyed. And I know Jeff Booth didn't come up with this. This is a law of the universe, I believe. But it's not created or destroyed. It's only transferred. Which to me suggests that you give your energy. Everybody only has so much energy. It's finite, right? And so you can either spend your time on Twitter or in the comment section of YouTube giving me the actuallys, this is what happened, or yelling at your politicians or complaining, or you can just start building the future that you want to see. That's where you can point your energy to, because you can't do both effectively. You can't argue with your politicians on Twitter and build the life that you want to live, to have. You can't do both. So for me, I've just completely, like, I hardly spend any time, just because Twitter it raises my blood pressure. There's too much politics on there. So I'm mostly on Nostr now. I'm in Bitcoin. I just hardly pay any sort of attention to the old system, because I feel like the only thing that's keeping them, their illusion alive, is by people giving it energy. And even though they think that they're yelling it and they're giving it negative energy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's positive or negative energy. It's still energy going to that system. And so that's why for me, again, it's just the only thing that I think about and try to spend my time doing is like things that I want to support. People really, that I think we're kind of slowly getting away from like people believing in the voting of politicians, but people vote every single day with your energy, with your time, with your money, with your energy, and with your attention. That's your main vote. You go to a poll, that's nonsense. That's a fairy tale. How you actually make change is through voting with your energy. And so that's kind of a big unlock that I've had. And Jeff Booth was a big part of that. He's been saying the same thing for years now, but it's finally clicked to me in the sense that I can't be mad over here while building over here. You can't do both. So allocate your energy accordingly for the future that you want to build.
100%. By the way, I think it's Albert Einstein that came up with that thing.
Was it?
I'm not sure, but like when I put it in there, like Albert Einstein constantly came up. I don't know if he came up with that.
I doubt it. He gets credit for way too much.
He has a good name, Einstein.
Good name.
True. Yeah, really interesting.
Just kind of on that note too, Robin, like when people think about that way, because I've heard that quote before and I've thought about it, but it was until recently where it really clicked of why Bitcoin makes so much sense from that lens. Because if energy can neither be destroyed or created, it only gets transferred. When you think about the fiat system, what are they doing? They're creating energy that they call it fiat. People have the ability to create that. So to me, that's totally unnatural. That goes against nature. That goes against the laws of the universe, which is why it's bound to fail, because it goes against that. Whereas with Bitcoin, it's neither created nor destroyed. There's 21 million out there. They already exist, but they're just transferred to miners who mine the next block. And if I do something for you, you send me energy in that sense. It's not created or destroyed. It's only transferred to each other. And that's why Bitcoin makes so much sense to me, because it follows that law of the universe. It's nature.
I love that. Because it really makes it clear, like, you cannot destroy or create Bitcoin. It just is there. And yes, there's mining going on. But the
Bitcoins already exist though, right? Like the 21 million already exist. It's just getting transferred now. It's not getting created. It's already there.
Yeah, well, I could see how people think, or like how people could interpret like the Bitcoin weren't existing and now there's like new Bitcoin because of the mining rewards. It's not like that. It's like 21 million. We just discovered it from like an illiquid spot where they cannot move to like now they can move.
Exactly.
So it gets transferred. Yeah, I love that framework. Really interesting.
I was just going to say, and if you think about something like gold too, because gold would be the closest thing to, because gold's nature, it's in line with that, and that's why it's been around for so long. That's why it's been such a good store of value. And so it's the same kind of thing as like gold is the same idea. It's just only a very small portion of it has actually been mined. It already exists, like whether it's under the oceans, whether it's in mountains, it already exists. But we have only mined a fraction of it. And that's, again, going back to the difficulty adjustment in Bitcoin there. That's why Bitcoin is so unique. And that's why I'm so bullish for Bitcoin, is because, again, as technology improves, maybe the demand for gold might grow. The gold's there. Then there's a lot of it. Like, I think if you look at the actual data on gold above the ground versus underneath the ground, it's like 200,000 tons versus millions of tons under the ocean in mountains. So there's like this huge supply that we could and will probably tap into if we need to. So it's stuck in the ground. And that's Jack Mallers. He gave a really good speech on Bitcoin. He said, Bitcoin's stuck in the ground. It's there. And we can get it. As technology gets better, we're going to find easier ways to mine Bitcoin or mine gold. But Bitcoin, no matter how much technology improves, no matter how efficient the miners get, no matter how many people are mining, we cannot increase the supply of Bitcoin. Regardless of how much demand there is, we cannot increase that. And so that's just such a, once you understand that, you're like, okay, well, why would I own anything else?
Especially with AI and robotics.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised if we dig up a lot more gold in the next 10 years than we did the last 10 years. I 100% wouldn't be surprised. One thing I forgot to ask you, actually, because we talked about strategy, we talked about stretch. What's actually your take on MicroStrategy, or like strategy now, MSTR, the main stock? And I'm asking very egotistically because I'm literally in the process of diving very deep into this stock. I just bought a little bit of allocation to have a foot in the game and to have like the dip my toes in. I think skin in the game is always better than not skin in the game. You're more incentivized to actually research something. But I'm still very skeptical. But the more I look into it, the more I'm like, shit, that might actually be a big thing one day.
I think it will. And that's kind of, when I mentioned it was kind of on my moonshot side of my barbell strategy. I'm keep going back to that, but I think it's worth noting because I do see a very long-term view of it, almost like a Berkshire Hathaway type stock. That's kind of how I look at it. But again, you mentioned the characteristics of like, yeah, you can loan against it in the future, because I would much rather take a loan against my strategy shares that somebody else is already holding anyways, versus giving up my Bitcoin that's in my possession in self-custody. So that to me is just such an unlock. Even if you think strategy and Bitcoin are going to perform similarly over time, I would still much rather lend against strategy versus lend against my Bitcoin and cold storage. So that's kind of one thing. If you look at Twitter right now, if you look at the YouTube comments, if you look at the live chats, like True North was doing a show last night, and there's people like, Saylor's an idiot. What's he doing? What's with this stock? And if you look at the last 6 months of strategy, it's basically just like a downhill slide. So if you just got into strategy right now, man, you're laughing. Like you picked the perfect time to enter. I'm pretty sure I'm actually down on strategy right now. I didn't even think that was possible, but and I've been buying it for years now, mostly because I believe that that's what Bitcoin should be and will be used for. And like go to six, it's like a toboggan hill.
Yeah, I'm down 5% on my strategy position currently. Yeah. Like I got a pretty good cost basis, I guess.
But this was like from 1 year to the next, I was like 60, 70, 80, 90% up on my strategy. And now I'm like down on it. But again, it's the same kind of thing as I'm not selling it today. Could I? Yeah, if I needed something. But it's like I'm here. I see strategy very similar to Bitcoin in terms of the long-term view of it. I'm with you. Like I'd much rather hold Bitcoin in self-custody, that I know where the keys are, that I control, that I know it's there. There's a lot of question marks for me around strategy, none that are like so important that I wouldn't invest in it. But I do think for anybody who has like a lot of capital trapped in the system still, strategy is an absolute no-brainer. Like if you're holding any other stocks outside of strategy right now, I just think that you're bound to fail, because again, it's all tied to that same system. It's every other company other than strategy, and even like the other Bitcoin treasury companies, strategy's in a league of its own. It's different from everything else. There's a lot of people who say that. I fully subscribe to that theory. But if you look at literally anything else, well, whether it's Tesla, Apple stock, NVIDIA. These are all things that can be created. If there's enough demand for something, we can create more of it. And it's going to become easier and easier to do that. If there's enough demand for the iPhone or a Tesla car or a NVIDIA chip, we can make more of it. If there's enough demand for it, we can get the supply there. We can, and we will. It'll become easier and easier. And so everything's kind of trending downwards, except one thing, Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin and self-custody is obviously what you want the most of, but I still believe that strategy itself is going to capture a lot of the capital that's in that system right now. It's going to go through strategy first. It's like the super highway that allows all those big institutions to have exposure to Bitcoin without holding them themselves. So I do think at some point I'll probably sell a portion of my strategy stack, because my long-term thesis on Bitcoin is that eventually, after enough people get rugged and burned, that people and institutions and everybody will be set up to hold their own keys. Anybody with a significant stack of Bitcoin will actually be the ones holding their own keys to it. So strategy might lose its importance over time, but it's still going to have, like, what are they at? 700,000 Bitcoin? It's nuts. So, but there's risks there. So what I would say to people, if you're thinking about going to strategy, is like, don't sell your Bitcoin to buy strategy. If you have money in the old system, absolutely allocate it to strategy above everything else, because it's the only thing that's really tied to Bitcoin, which is completely away from that financial system. But everything else should be in self-custody. It's a better play.
Yeah, especially around 1 MNAV seems to be very good. I mean, yeah. haven't done my research properly, but like seeing the price, like they stacked so many more Bitcoin the last 2 years. And I just showed it on the chart. So they have here, if you're going back from the price right now to about 2 years back, we are around the same, same price level. Like 2 years would be that. So like we are like higher, but like it's cherry picking timeframes now. But basically in the last 1-2 years, we had the same price level. And they've stacked a lot of Bitcoin in the last 2 years, like a lot of them. And so like the MNAV really became very attractive to the point where it even was at a discount last year. I think now it's like a little bit above 1. That seems to be, if you want to study strategy, I guess now is the time.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and it's just like talking about that Bitcoin treasuries that we looked at the other day, where there was hardly any companies who own Bitcoin, and now there's like, thousands. But it was the same kind of thing. Like strategy had 100,000 Bitcoin, I think, at the time, which was 2 years ago, and now they have over 700,000. So again, if you're looking at that from like the short term and the price movement of the shares, yeah, it's shitty. But like the amount of Bitcoin that they got over that time, they needed to do that. They needed to issue shares for anybody who would buy them and issue credit to anybody who would take that on. They had to do that to get to what they have right now. And it's the same as in Bitcoin. Whenever the sentiment is really low, whenever people are like, what the hell is Saylor doing? That's where you want to buy. That exact moment is when you want to enter something, especially if you have conviction over it, like both you and I do. We see the long-term vision for Bitcoin. And so then it's like, is Saylor an idiot? He's probably the smartest person I've ever heard speak before. Plus, he has 700,000 Bitcoin. Plus, he uses artificial intelligence very effectively and has a team that does the same to build these products to cater to that whole market that's really running out of options, in my opinion. It's kind of like a frog in boiling water for that system. Is like, even though the stock market's been going up in fiat terms, if you look at it compared to gold or silver or Bitcoin, like it's way down over this last decade. And it's just like, if you're willing to look into that, it's very obvious that everything other than Bitcoin is going to fail at some point. Not fail, but continue going down and being repriced by Bitcoin over time. That's a very clear trend to me. And so why fight that? Like, why try to outcompete that? I think that the only thing that people should try to outcompete Bitcoin with is their own value. And that's one thing I've been talking about a lot, is like, especially with the new year, everybody's excited. They want to start, doing things a little bit different. There's a guy named Brian Tracy, I believe, and he had this concept of becoming 1,000% more valuable over a decade. And basically his concept was you should try to become 0.01% more valuable every day and do that for 10 years. And that compounds into 1,000% better. And so it's like 26%, if you can do that, getting 0.01% better every day by, growing your skills, growing your knowledge base, meeting new people, becoming more valuable. 26% versus Bitcoin's, I don't know what Bitcoin's going to do, but like, I feel like that's kind of fun because then whatever you're earning, you're kind of keeping pace with Bitcoin if you can do that. So that's kind of what I would say for people is like, try to become more valuable, try to outcompete Bitcoin in the sense of your own value and compound that.
I love that. And it's like 100% true because like if you have a Bitcoin stack and what you earn, you put into Bitcoin, and then you get more and more valuable, this is your Bitcoin yield. I don't like that word, Bitcoin yield, 100%. But this is your own personal Bitcoin yield where you say, hey, I get more and more valuable over time as time goes on. And I can stack more Bitcoin. And at the same time your Bitcoin stack grows, that's a magical formula. And so do that, like get more valuable. And this is also, people always want to find shortcuts. They want to like, hey, how can I get more Bitcoin? How can I increase my value? And like, yeah, increase your own value in the world. What are your skills, your network, all of those things worth? This will immediately 10x what you can stack, 10x what your stack is worth and all of that. So like if you're under 70 years old, that would be my strategy.
Yes. And if you look at, like, you can actually do this yourself. You can look at the math. Like if you were to not get any better, if you were not to get any more valuable through time, whatever you earn is going to significantly get less Bitcoin over time, right? If you had $1,000 today, that same $1,000 extra that you have at the end of every year or month, whatever it is going to buy significantly less in the future, which means you're becoming less valuable. That's not what you want. So it's tough. It's something, and kind of his thing was like, you want to become more productive, higher performance, and more output. And I just hate all those words, like becoming more productive. It just doesn't resonate with me. Becoming more valuable though. And so it's like, you don't have to do anything crazy. You don't have to go to college and take a course. You can literally just allocate half an hour, 45 minutes every morning to whatever you're interested in and learn more, and just do that every day. And that's kind of the whole concept behind it, is the momentum, because every day you're adding new thoughts and it compounds into something else. And you have this momentum that's just like continuously helping you grow and become more valuable. And like you said, meeting other people, because the network is a big part of that equation. So that's kind of what I changed it to, is like, instead of becoming more productive, more higher performance and higher output, I changed it to become more valuable, become more disciplined and focused, and grow your network. I feel like those are more, those words resonate with me, even though it's the same kind of thing. Those three words just resonate more with me.
100%. And I want to show you this because like I just posted that today, like an hour ago or something like that. Yeah. And I saw this on Reddit. I don't know if it's new or old. And he basically got whipped out of his savings because he was doing leverage trades. And the reason why I bring it up, the reason why he did the leverage trades is right here. However, in the last 1-2 years, my monthly expenses rose significantly. And I was upset about not being able to buy as much Bitcoin as I could in the past. This is what led me to the idea that I can make up for that period in 1-2 leverage trades. So this is actually something where, like, instead of spending your time of figuring out how to do leverage trading, spend your time of figuring out how you can be more valuable to society and just get more money and then stack that money into Bitcoin. He lost 6 years of DCA and got liquidated. This is a story that, yes, of course, it could be just made up. It's like a internet story that just like someone can type in and doesn't have to be true. But I'm 100% sure there are people that started those leverage trading, those fancy timing the market things, because of they're not keeping up with inflation, with their own job. And this leads them to higher time preference thinking, which this 100% is.
Yeah, like you said, even if it's not like a real story written by somebody, there's definitely people out there who are trying to do this with Bitcoin, and they literally get wiped. There's probably 1,000 of these stories every day that we don't see because people are too embarrassed to talk about it. So it's one of those things. Even if this is a fake story and didn't actually happen, this is 1,000% happening every single day. Is people trying to take shortcuts, and like you said, there, it's the same. It's going back to the same kind of principle of energy there. You can either spend your energy because you only have so much of it every day. You can spend your energy trying to shortcut Bitcoin, trying to make the right trade, looking at the charts, looking at the best rates for lending against your Bitcoin and what you can buy with that. It's like, or you can just become better at whatever it is that you do right now and find a way to earn more money every year. And I don't know if, am I able to share this? Because I think this is really interesting on this topic, Robin. Am I?
Yes, you can share it and I'll put it on the stage.
There you go. So this is kind of this is what I was talking about here. So this is the example of it. If you kind of compare the two, and I was just using an example here of like if somebody had $5,000 at the end of the year, this is kind of what it looks like. And I'm pretty sure this should change if I change this. Yes. So what this looks like is this is your 35%. This is what I guess Bitcoin would be for the next 10 years, 35%. Saylor uses 21. I think 21 is too low. We haven't even sniffed the surface on like the steep part of the S curve here yet. Just based on how many people actually understand Bitcoin, I think that this is reasonable, but you can choose your own here. So this is essentially Bitcoin going up 35% per year, compounding. So it goes from 88% to $1.7 million in the next 10 years. I would say that's fairly conservative, but anyways, that's up to people to put their own numbers in here. So this is kind of based on the concept of getting 26% better per year, which is again 0.01% per day. That's compounding. So it doesn't look like much, right? Like in 2025, your net income, again, this is kind of your take home after your income less all your costs in your life. And after 1 year, you're like, okay, well, I made an extra $1,300. That doesn't really seem like much. But then you compound it and you go over 10 years and you just keep doing it over and over and over again and compounding that. It turns into 50,000 extra every year. And so when you're zooming out like this, it's like, yeah, so you got an extra $5,000 this year or last year, I guess it was. That gets you 5 million sats with $5,000. And then in 10 years from now, even though you increased your value by 26%, that same take home, now worth $50,000, is only getting you 2 million sats. And so imagine what this would look like for somebody who's basically standing still and hardly getting better or becoming more valuable. It would be fractions of this in 10 years from now, what that same take home would get you. So this is what you're competing against here. You're competing against Bitcoin. That's what you want to try to outcompete. So whatever income you have is going to get you approximately the same amount of Bitcoin in the future for that, which is going to be very difficult. But I think that that's what kind of people's should be thinking about. And there's a current stack here. I just use 69. That's not my stack. I might have more, I might have less, but it's a good number. So anyways, that was kind of the thing that I was looking at here is like, here's 35%, this is 26%, and you're still over time losing. So there it is. Productivity, that's what he used. I like valuable, disciplined, and more focused, and growing your network. And then this is kind of what he had to say of like how to do it, right? Spend the first hour on yourself, plan your day, prioritize your day, do the most important thing first. And they just kind of seem like small things. They're difficult, but this is kind of what I'm talking about. If you can become more disciplined, more focused, become better at what you do, this is how you might actually be able to outcompete Bitcoin. So it's like listen to audiobooks. Most Bitcoiners already do that anyways. Ask yourself 2 questions after every meeting or event. What did I do right? What did I do differently? Because then you become more valuable for the next one, right? Like this isn't, again, you don't have to go and get a diploma or a degree or something. These are just such small changes that you can implement into your life. And then this one is treat every person like the most important person, which is how you grow your network, how you find opportunities by being a good person. People are a good person to you. And then maybe you find a better opportunity doing the same job for more money. These are the kind of things that could happen just by following kind of, something like this.
I love that. That's really cool. And it's actually, I really want to make a video one day about that, because I already experienced the last like 10, 15 years of my life where there's different phases in life. And there are phases where I struggle, where I want to, there's something wrong in the process of me doing life. And then I go back to journaling every day, planning out the day, figure out all the like the discipline stuff. And then all of a sudden there's coming a switch where everything is kind of flow state. I stand up, I do my things, like end of the day, I'm like, wow, like so much happened. Like the day was just like freaking awesome. And so I use usually those tools like standing up in the morning and just like planning out the day and prioritizing all of that to get my life back into line. But now I'm like, okay, what are the guardrails that I have to get into my life that I never crash down? What is the things that I always have to do? And one of the things that like works for me, and I think it's different, very personal a little bit. There's some things that you can try and see if it works for you. But the things that worked really well for me is just standing up and thinking of the day of like, okay, here I have a podcast, here I have to do this, here I have to do this. Just like thinking about the day and ask yourself like, what needs to happen today that I would be proud of that day? And just put yourself in the shoes like, okay, in the beginning, what would be actually great to achieve? And then like work out in the morning is so important for me. If I do a workout in the morning, I feel way better than if I don't do the workout in the morning. And that's actually it. I know like there are people like having maybe like a 1 hour long morning routine. I don't care for that. I like to stand up, quickly think about like what the day will be, like 5-10 minutes, then go for a workout or go after the first thing after workout. Maybe sometimes it's not possible. And that's a beautiful day. And I usually then eat like very late. It's now 3 p.m. I haven't eaten anything today except my water that I always have. And so like that's it. So don't overcomplicate it. It's just like try to get your ass in line.
I think that's the most important part is like just don't overthink it. When people think that they need to get better every day, they just put so much pressure on themselves. But it's like, again, going back to the energy component of this, it's like, okay, so if you just kind of approach your day where you don't know what you're doing, think about how much energy you would exert trying to figure out what you are doing and how much of your day and your time you would spend trying to figure out what you're going to do and when you're going to do it, versus if you kind of have an idea of it. And don't get me wrong, I am horrible at this. Of this whole list, this is by far my worst quality. And I'm kind of like, I do spend the first hour of my day. I usually spend the first 2 hours of the day by myself, listening to things, writing things, doing different things. And that's why it was kind of easy for me to wake up this morning because of that. But that's probably been the biggest impact on me is getting up early. But there are still obviously changes I need to make. But again, going back to that theory of like, okay, if you're spending all of your day trying to figure out what you need to do and kind of going over here and then over here and then over there, you're wasting a lot of energy doing that. Versus if you can figure out what the most important thing is and do that, that's becoming more valuable or productive. But I still hate that word productive, but that's what it is. And it's not something where you just like need to become smarter every day. It's just like doing things properly, utilizing your energy properly, I guess. So and kind of like what you said there is like, it's different for everybody. That works for you. You stand up, think about the day. I need 2 hours. I'm a little bit different. So it's not like Jore's right, Robin's right. It's whatever works for you. That's kind of what you figure out. And then over time, you kind of dial that in, you tune that in further, and then you're in a much better spot than you were today.
100%. I love that. Man, we got on a, like I want to share this with the audience because like, I think it might be valuable. I go in most conversations blank and I don't plan things too much. And in hindsight, now I'm thinking how amazing this episode was and how much planning it would have taken to actually plan such a nice episode, because I really enjoyed it. I hope the audience also really enjoyed it. I hope also you, Joe, like really enjoyed it. Of like the composition of like the flow of the conversation, like the different parts that we went through. Like people, there's actually like people coming up to me like, oh, how do you plan for those episodes? I'm like, I don't. I just like I try to have a focused conversation. It turns out it's pretty rare to have focused conversations these days with smartphones all around, with TVs all around, with like blinking things in the streets and everything like that. So if you just have a focused conversation with someone, it turns out to be a great conversation. So thank you so much, Joe, for being on and like having such a great conversation with me. But before we have a few things, we have the question that I ask each and every one of my returning guests, and you have been on the fourth time. I don't even know.
I don't know either.
But sometimes already. By the way, thank you to this guy that emailed the both of us to connect us. I remember there was a guy that emailed me and emailed you to say like, hey, you guys should do something together. And then I invited you.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. So like, I'm super thankful for those people that just like connect people and make things happen, because otherwise probably will still connect somehow, but like wouldn't been so early. But yeah, the question is that I asked each and every one of my guests is, what have you learned outside of Bitcoin since your last appearance on the podcast?
Oh, what have I learned? I mean, I pretty much talked about everything I learned today already, which is I should probably have some cash on the side, even for somebody who has full conviction in Bitcoin. It's a good idea to have a little bit of a cash reserve to sleep better at night and just to feel more relaxed throughout the day without having to spend your time looking at charts and worrying about it. Also, the transfer of energy, just looking through it from that lens. And I would actually challenge everybody who's watching this right now to tap into old wisdom that's out there. I do a show every Tuesday called Timeless Tuesday, where we look at back at what people were saying 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, because the world was a much different place at that time. They were, for the most part, on a hard money standard. So everybody thought differently. Everybody talked differently. Everybody planned differently for the future. If you look at if you were born today and you just saw like the last 5 or 10 years of content on YouTube, it's insanity. It's just like how to get abs in 30 days, how to make $1 million in a month. There's just no shortcuts in life. So go back to this old wisdom. Find guys like Napoleon Hill, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, who's the guy, Brian Tracy. There's a ton of this knowledge that's available out there that you can get for free, and just start using that and actually look at it through a Bitcoin lens, because they didn't have Bitcoin back then. Even though they were kind of on a hard money standard, they thought differently than we do today. They still didn't have Bitcoin. So if you can take these old principles and apply it through a Bitcoin lens, it's life-changing. It really is. It changes the way you approach your days. It changes the way you think about the future and how you design your own life. So that's kind of what I would say. That's one thing that I've started doing in the last couple of years, is really tapping into that old knowledge and wisdom and applying it through a Bitcoin lens.
I love that. It's really, really cool. We literally had yesterday a similar question of like, if you want to learn something, would you go to recent wisdom of like the last 10 to 20 years, or are you going way back 50, 100, 200, even 1,000 years back? And the answer was similar to like actually what you said. I love the connection there. We have an end routine in the podcast where the previous guest is asking a question for the next guest without knowing who the next guest actually is. I have actually in my end routine, I just realized. The question is, man, I have no clue how I would answer that, but I will just throw it at you. If you could jump into a pool of anything, what would that pool be of? Like, what would be the content of that pool, in that physical pool that you could jump into?
I would probably, I don't know how many of your guests would have seen Trailer Park Boys. It's a famous Canadian show. It actually went kind of worldwide when they got signed with Netflix, but there's an episode in there where Jim Leahy's kind of the trailer park supervisor. He's a drunk, and he jumps into this pool of like I think it's Ciroc liquor or rock liquor. So I think it'd be fun to do with like beer, or like a hot tub full of beer, or like whiskey or vodka, because I'm pretty sure it hits you differently through your bloodstream versus like drinking it. So I think that'd be fun. He was totally hammered, and I think that you would get pretty hammered, but I think it'd be a fun experiment if it was if I was monitored and made sure that I didn't die. I think that'd be what I would jump into, is like a pool of vodka.
Such a fun question, such a fun answer. I love that. I'm still like what the heck? Like I just like water, like I'm a swimmer, so I like to jump into water. But yeah, thank you so much, Joe, for being on the podcast, for being on the show. Before I let you go, where can people find you, ask you questions, and reach out to you?
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Robin, and thanks for we were talking about it before the show, but just how much freaking work you've been doing for Bitcoin. If Bitcoin was a team, you would be the basketball, the point guard, the starting point guard. You've been killing it, man. So I appreciate it. I think all Bitcoiners appreciate all the work that you do, and we need more people like that. We really do. We need to wake people up in the sense of not explaining why they want Bitcoin, but what's so broken about the system. Once we can get them there, I think it's a much easier transition into gold, silver, and then eventually Bitcoin. So people can find me at 88 Sats Radio. That's my YouTube channel. And then everything kind of flows from there. So 88 Sats Radio. And yeah, I appreciate it, Robin.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being on, Joe. And also thank you so much for everyone that is watching and listening, for joining us today. As always, I'll be back. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.